Welcome back to episode 17 of the Double Down podcast presented by Waterwave. Today is Friday, February 10th, and I'm excited to be back live on Zoom bringing you guys another episode. I was super encouraged to see that, we got really great feedback on episode 16 with Jared Bergeron. A really fun episode. So if you guys haven't checked that one out, make sure you go check that one out after this episode. Season 2 is off to a great start, and I'm super excited to follow that up with another great episode today. Before we get into our featured guest interview today, let's look at the Double Down Weekly wrap up. Last night was a big, fun night for me because I got to watch my GOAT pass Kareem for the most points ever in NBA history. So super excited about that. It was super fun to watch. It was pretty crazy that they stopped the game midway, but it was really fun to watch, and just excited to see the guy that I look up to do some crazy stuff. So. With that being said, that's really all I got for the weekly wrap up. Nothing too crazy that happened in the last week. My knee, in terms of my progress, like I've told you guys before, we're kind of on this sprinting phase right now. So we're just chugging along and we're getting better every single day. But I'm excited for you guys to hear this featured interview today. So with that being said, let's hop into our featured interview. I'm excited to welcome on former UConn Husky and current WNBA player, my friend Bria Hartley.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm excited to have you on, Bria. We talked about this for a couple months now, so I'm
Right.
excited that we finally got to make this work. We'll obviously get into your current career and everything that's going on right now, but I kind of want to throw it back. Growing up in New York, your early days. When did basketball kind of click for you? Like, when did you know, like, I'm gonna be a hooper and I want this like to be my profession?
I mean, I was a pretty active kid, so for the most part, I played multiple sports growing up.
Hmm.
My dad was an athlete; he was a boxer, so he just kind of was like, I had way too much energy and put me in everything. So I played soccer, basketball, and lacrosse since I was 8, and then kind of just as I got older, I just leaned more and more towards basketball. I still played the other ones like in high school and everything, but then like
Hmm.
travel and everything like that, I kind of just went more towards basketball. And I mean, I worked really hard. I started probably working with a trainer when I was 9.
Oh
It was
wow.
more so because my brother went, and then I
Hmm.
wouldn't sit down. So the trainer was like, "Well, I'm gonna put her through a workout and see if she gets tired." And
Yeah.
I didn't get tired, so I just kept going ever since that. And
Yeah. That's
I
great.
was just kind of a gym rat growing up, and so basketball just kind of became my favorite.
Yeah, and obviously, paid off really well for you as you have some pretty cool deals that you got to be a part of in high school. You were actually a part of the 2010s U18 national team. Kind of
Hmm.
take us through your experience with the national team as a high schooler, and still yet young into your future career. Kind of take us through that high level of play when you're still a young person.
Yeah, that was really cool because you kind of see some of the girls like on the AAU circuit, but then like you get all the best ones, just bring them together. We were in
Hmm.
Colorado Springs, and I remember I ended up missing my prom and high school graduation to be
Oh
there, but
wow.
it was definitely super exciting, like really competitive and kind of really. I feel like it was the first taste of playing like with other like for sure like top D1 athletes, especially before going to UConn. So that was a
Hmm.
really good experience. And I actually had a former UConn player as the head coach, Jen Rosati. So that
Oh wow.
was a nice little stepping stone before I went to UConn.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, you had a great high school career, and you were preparing yourself to play at the next level. We talk about. I mean, you think your senior year average like 39, 8, 6, and 6, like just some crazy stats. So, obviously the talent is there, but the competition isn't the same as playing like a national level competition.
Right.
So you're kind of getting that first glimpse before you step foot on campus at UConn. We often talk about with guys on the podcast and people that come on the pod about that kind of transition from high
Hmm.
school to college. And obviously for you, you're going to play for Coach Geno at UConn. It's the highest level of women basketball, but you've kind of felt ready because you had that under your belt. Kind of take us through your first couple weeks on campus and what it was like, and was the adjustment hard for you, or was it kind of something that just came naturally?
I think when everyone gets to that next level, that first year, it's definitely hard. I'm not
Hmm.
going to say it was easy at all.
Yeah.
I think I handled it well, but I wouldn't say it
Hmm.
was easy. I just think I was always a kid. I felt like I worked really hard, and just like anything, when you go from high school to college or from one level to the next, it's just you have to work that much harder. So I worked
Yes.
really hard for the high school athlete, but then when I got to college, there was another level that I didn't understand yet.
Hmm.
So grateful that I had coaches that really pushed me and really helped me understand that level. Sometimes I didn't like it, but it definitely help get me to where I am today.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think, we oftentimes talk about that difference between, a high school coach versus a whole system of people that are,
Right.
there to help you get better. How did you kind of take your game and, kind of integrate it into that system? Because obviously, you talked about having a trainer growing up and you had people in your ear that knew basketball. So obviously you have a good basketball background. But what did UConn give to you as a 18, 19-year-old, basketball player that had, sights on the WNBA? What did they give you that allowed you to take kind of your next step in this game?
Yeah, I think when you go to UConn, like we run a lot of sets, and then
Hmm.
his main thing is not really just teaching us play after play.
Yeah.
It was more so like reading the game.
Hmm.
So we would just have one set, and it's just like your read depends on how the other
Yeah.
team plays you. It's not
Yeah.
like, oh, I just need to run this play this way. So I think that's why
Hmm.
a lot of UConn players do well at the next level because they're just able to read the game and he drills it into your head year after year. And then obviously over time you get better and better. So I think that's what separates you in college and at the next level is just being able to read the game and not worried about like running this play the exact way. Because especially when you get to the WNBA, it's like a lot of teams run the same stuff.
Yeah.
We know
Yeah.
what you're running. We scout really well. So it's like you got to be able to make a basketball play and make a read.
Yeah, and it's such a different, obviously it's the same game, but it's such a different game from college, and it's like
But
if you don't understand the game and if you can't, if there's a pin down action, you can't, learn that if this is the shooter, you got to get on the backside, backpack, just little stuff
right,
like that. If you don't understand how the game works, you're gonna get left behind. And I think, that's a credit to Geno and his staff at UConn is, what they do and how they go about it. And obviously, the winning takes over and the winning takes
right.
place. We talk about your UConn career, All American team, multiple time All American. You had just so much success. Do you have a moment in your UConn career that kind of just you come back and it's just like that's kind of formed me into the player I am?
Um, I think I always say my junior year. It was actually my worst year. I had like a ankle injury that kind of boggled me down like to start the
Hmm.
season. So I kind of didn't really catch rhythm. But
Yeah.
I'll say my first 2 years at UConn, we went to the Final Four and we lost to Notre Dame.
Hmm.
And then my third year, I didn't play as well. But then when we got to the Final Four, I played really, really well. And we ended up beating Notre Dame in the Final Four. And then we went on the national championship and won. So I
Wow.
always say that's my favorite story just because, like, it's one of those things the first 2 years, you're like, dang, we didn't win. It just kind of shows you that hard work pays off and like everything
Hmm.
comes full circle. Like, just that story, it was just a perfect moment. And it was perfect to like beat Notre Dame in
Yeah.
the Final Four, too, just to go on
Hmm.
to win. So that's always my favorite moment that I say.
Yeah, well, that's special because obviously every year you want to win it, right? And it's
Right.
tough and it's difficult, but you come short, and then it's that adds that much more fuel to the fire. You obviously you start to wrap up your UConn career. You're actually only one of three Huskies, along with two names that our
Right.
viewers will probably listen to, but Maya Moore and Deanna Taurasi to score 1,500 points, 500 rebounds, and 500 assists.
Hmm.
Talk about that company. I mean, you talk about goats. I got to watch Deanna work out this summer during the Final Four, or when
Hmm.
the Final Four was going on. She came to work out at Minnesota, and still at her age, she was working out so hard for
Hmm.
2 hours. And talk about kind of being a Husky and part of that list with those names, because that's some serious stuff.
I mean, that's awesome. I've got the experience to play with Diana, so like that also makes it
Yeah.
even better. But
Hmm.
and I got to play with Maya now. So Maya was a senior when I was a freshman. So being around them and being able to play with them and see how they approach the game
Yeah.
is an honor. And then to be in that same category with them just shows. I mean, I didn't have as many points as they did, but I think it still shows like how much you can do as like an all around player and not just
Yeah.
points or there's so many different things you can do on the basketball court that can affect the game. So
Yeah.
definitely an honor to be in that conversation with them.
Yeah, well, it's a testament to your game. It's you're a multifaceted type of player that can do a lot on the
Hmm.
court, and when you put yourself in positions to do several things, those awards and those things will start coming. And we talk about success. You were eventually drafted by the Seattle Storm with the 17th overall pick. I don't know, seventh, correct? Seventh pick.
Seventh, yeah,
Seventh pick,
seventh.
yeah, seventh pick in the overall draft in the 2014 draft, and then you were, traded to the Mystics on draft day. Kind of take us
Hmm.
through, because for people that don't know how that works, like you think you're going one way, you go somewhere else. Kind of take us through that process. It must be a whirlwind.
Right. Yeah, no, it was crazy. Obviously, I mean, being drafted was a dream come true. So it was a special moment. I
Mhm.
actually will say, Coach Auriemma whispered in my ear. I guess there
Oh,
was
really?
like a rumor that there might be a trade like
Hmm.
happening. So I kinda knew before I did the interview, and I was thankful that he told me because
Yeah.
um I mean, I wouldn't mind going to either place, to be honest. At the
Hmm.
time, Seattle had Sue Bird, so that would have been really cool to play under her.
Yeah. Hmm.
DC was nice because I had more of an opportunity to play, and it was closer to home. So, everything happens for a reason. It played out the way it did, but it was definitely just I didn't really care where I went at that point. I just
Yeah.
wanted to go on and play at the next level.
Yeah, and you just achieve that goal that you've probably been thinking about for a long time. You talk about coming into the league. You were named to the 2014 WNBA All Rookie Team. You had a great start to your career before you were eventually traded to New York. Talk about those early days in the league. What was the most difficult part for you as a player coming in? And obviously, you want to play the same game, you want to play the same way, but it's another level and it's a harder
Mhm.
game. How did you kind of adjust your game, and what were kind of the biggest things that you just had to figure out as a basketball player?
Um, Well, I think I've always been known like for my speed, so
Hmm.
especially when I was younger, like coming into the league. But when you get to the next level, it's that much faster.
Yeah,
So I was always really fast, but sometimes I go too fast.
for
So
sure.
I've always worked on just like controlling my pace, and even now, like being older, it's just like okay, knowing that like okay, I'm not the fastest anymore, but controlling your pace and change your pace, you could still affect the
Hmm.
game.
Hmm.
So that's something I really, really worked on. I had some great veterans with me. At Carol Lawson was my vet when I was in DC, and she was just a great example of work ethic, being smart, taking care of your body. That's a big thing too. Like a lot of us play in the WNBA and we play overseas, so it's like you got to maintain your body. Or there's a lot of wear and tear, and just trying to make sure you're putting your best product on the floor.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like you said, that speed thing is a huge deal. We talk about it a lot. Obviously, you want fast guys and people on the court, but you need to learn how to play with your speed, and how to
Right.
cut off stuff, and when do I need to pause, when do I need to slow up, when do I need to accelerate on this cut. I think that's a great piece of advice for somebody that's making a jump onto any level.
Right.
So eventually, you get traded to New York in 2017. How did that trade kind of go about, and how did it, what did you think? Obviously, I think trades are interesting, but how did that kind of affect your career, positively, negatively, either way?
I actually think it affected me like positively.
Hmm.
I actually had just had my son in January 14th, and then I ended up getting traded, I think January 30th
Wow.
of 2017.
Hmm.
So my last couple years in Washington, I had like an injury second year, and I was in the rotation, but not as much as I would have wanted. And
Yeah.
I kind of had that conversation with the coaches, and that trade came up, and they were like, "Okay, we're able to trade you back home to New York. I think you're gonna have a better opportunity to like get some more minutes there." And I mean that rang true. So and it was also nice like after having a newborn, like being back
Hmm.
home near my
Yeah.
parents and a lot
No
more
doubt.
help. So initially like getting traded, you're always kind of like unsure, but I think it ended up being a blessing in disguise, and I ended up loving it. So
Yeah, well, and it's such a unique thing too, where you get to go. I mean, it's kind of home. You get to go back to your home state, and you get to be
mhm,
around your family and friends. How did that kind of take part? Because I'm kind of in the same situation where I went away, and now I came back to Minnesota. I'm back home, and just being
mhm.
around family. Like, how did that kind of affect your career and your game?
It was nice. I mean, just having that support, and I mean, like I
Yeah.
said, especially having my son. I was back playing. Our first game was 4 months after I had my son, so I definitely
Oh,
needed a lot of
wow.
help, and I
Hmm.
had a lot of friends, like more so in New York and family, and his dad's family is like right in New Jersey. So
Yeah.
it definitely benefited me a lot more. Where I always say I kind of still had to be a little selfish, like with my career since I had him
Hmm.
so young. Just
Hmm.
like being able to be in the gym. So like having someone who could come out to White Plains and we're out there to watch him was just really
Yeah.
beneficial.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's exciting too when you are at a stage where, you've made a name for yourself and you have a career, and it's like now I get to do it, with my family watching, and
Right.
my family right in front. It's special. It's a special thing. Fast forward, to the 2020 season. You appeared in 13 games for Phoenix in the 2020
Mhm.
season, which included 3 starts, before you ended up suffering a season-ending knee injury on August 28th against Washington. Obviously, as a player, you've been through bumps and bruises, you've been through ankle
Mhm.
injuries, and you've been through stuff. This is probably the most major of your surgery, of
For
your
sure.
situations. Kind of just take us through, what happened, and just the kind of initial like emotional responses you felt, not only as a basketball player, but as a human, like laying there on the court knowing something, something's not right.
Yeah, yeah, honestly, I mean, that year was like crazy. I was killing that season. So I was feeling really good
Yeah.
prior to it. And then honestly, I just went behind the back and then I went to like cross over, but I guess my body just didn't go back that way.
Hmm.
And when it happened, I just remember it felt like crazy. So I mean, I was like, I've never torn my ACL before, but I'm pretty sure I just tore my ACL.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the reaction and everything. And I think after that, I mean, I think people were trying to be optimistic and they were kind of like, oh, maybe it's just MCL or something like that. But then
Hmm.
obviously we got the MRI and it showed that my ACL was torn almost completely. So,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's a crazy process that we talk about a lot about. You kind of know right when it happens, but you
hmm
obviously you want to be positive and you want to be like,
right.
what's the chance of this and this and you eventually find out that, you tore your ACL. As a competitor, where do you go? Because you obviously know you're going to be out for 6 to 9 months, maybe longer if there's
hmm
more damage. Kind of just take us through like where did your head go initially, and what was the kind of future plans for your career? Because obviously it could be detrimental.
Yeah, I know like in the moment I was just like, oh, I just want to stay here and support my teammates. But we were in a bubble and obviously they
Hmm.
wanted me to get like the care I needed right away.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
from that point it was really just kind of determining where I would go. So like Phoenix had their team doctors. I'm from New York, so like there was mention of New York, but I had just been in Minnesota prior to going into the bubble. And I
Hmm.
actually met with Dr. Larson about my hip
Yeah.
before going into the bubble. And then like talking about that, it was just like, okay, like he does ACLs too. He's actually one of the top guys like
Yeah.
in the US. So
Hmm.
I was just kind of like, yeah, I think I'll go back to Minnesota like and get it done. And the team ended up reaching out to someone at training house that I could see right away. And then I just
Yeah.
started the process with them.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I didn't even know it happened like that. So that,
Yeah.
that's interesting for me to find out too. You talk about moving to Minnesota, getting the surgery. We talk about a lot of guys and girls on the podcast talk about not knowing exactly what their plan is for their future when stuff happens like this, and obviously, you're in a different position where you're in the league for a couple of years. Did you kind of have that mentality like, hey, let's go, let's get to work, like I need to get back? Or was it kind of more of like this happened, this sucks, let's dwell about it for a while? What kind of attitude did you have?
I mean, so I just signed a 3-year deal with Phoenix, so that was the first year
Oh,
in a
wow.
3-year deal. So,
Hmm.
I mean, I was kind of like, okay, I kind of have a little bit of security, and I just got to get back and be able to get on a court.
Yeah.
I think as far as the process ACL wise, there was a lot of like unknown.
Hmm.
And I think you can tell someone, but until you experience, you don't really know how to approach it.
Yeah.
So I kind of just took it day by day, just try to listen to my PT, ask questions to other players that I've known who've torn their ACL. Sometimes it's hard to compare though, because like every player is different, everyone's body reacts
For
different.
sure.
But
For sure.
I just tried to ask a lot of questions, things I didn't know, things that I could do to kind of help the process. Because with this ACL, I kind of struggled a bit with like range of motion, had
Yep.
some scar tissue issues, so
Hmm.
they ended up having to go back in and
Hmm.
clean it out. But I think also Brady, my PT, does a really good job of kind of like not reacting to certain
Yeah.
stuff.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
think like I kind of wasn't doing well in my rehab or as well as they would have liked. And I still kind of didn't know,
Yeah.
like, because I'd never been through the process. So I didn't know, like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm not progressing as fast as I should be.
Hmm.
But I think Brady does that so that you don't react or get over emotional about certain things. So I think
Yeah.
that also helped with that process.
Hmm. For sure. Well, I think it's such a unique thing too. Like you mentioned, it's everybody's journey through it is different,
hmm
and you could have, extra things torn and things not going your way. Um,
hmm
I always was curious, and I'll ask you this because I never had to go back in for either of mine, but I've known a lot of people that had to.
hmm
I've always kind of been scared shitless of it. Was it something that kind of scared you, or was it something like, okay, they just need to do what they need to do. Let's go get this thing, sewed up.
I don't think it scared me. So only thing I had a conversation. So since I had that hip issue, I also
Hmm.
got my hip done at
Oh,
the
wow.
same time when they went back in for the scope. So I had my surgery in September 2020 for ACL originally, and then December 1st I had a hip and knee scope. But I don't know. I was like, I'm gonna thug it out. I'd rather just get back and
Yeah,
be like all healed up or not have any issues to worry about rather than like getting back and say my hip is still bothering me or something
for
like
sure,
that.
for
But
sure.
with the scope going back in, it wasn't too bad because I already did like 2 months of rehab and like I was able to put weight on it like
Hmm.
pretty much like maybe not the next day, but like 2 days after I was able to put
Yeah.
more weight on the right leg. Kind of just go in there, like clean everything up. Obviously you gotta like kind of be back on the table, get the quad working again. So it
Hmm.
slows down the process maybe
Yeah.
by a couple weeks or like a month or so. But it really wasn't too bad of a process, the knee part. The
Hmm.
only thing that made it more difficult for me was like because I got the knee and the hip was just like getting around. And it
Yeah.
was just like
I believe it.
I had a walker, like a grandma walker with the tennis balls on the back. So I always tell people that story. I'm like, I'm just proud that I'm running again.
Well, it's funny too because it's like you're in a position where you want to be, you want to be ready to go and you want to be back, and especially when you kind of felt like August, I mean September to December, you feel like you're progressing pretty well, and then you got to take
Hmm.
a step back, and it's like
Right.
it kind of puts a burden on like what's the timeline looking like, how am I going to be ready for next year. Take us through kind of when you kind of got back on the court, getting ready for games, gearing up for games, like the excitement to play basketball again after such a long journey.
Yeah, it took some time. So, I mean, I feel like normally it's like 9 months, but I guess with the complications in my knee and doing the hip, I was cleared about a year. Like,
Mm,
I think it was like a week before a year when I was able to play again. And honestly, that was great. I mean, I didn't play a lot that game. I got in the end of the game, but I was like, I just want to score, and I came in and hit a three just like I normally
there
did.
you
So
go.
like
Yep, yep.
that moment's really big. I mean, all the hard work you put in, like I said, basically a whole year of rehabbing and just trying to get back on the court. So like I think that moment is still special, even if you don't come out and like what I mean,
Yeah.
perform like I was prior to the
Hmm.
injury. It just says a lot about your character and your perseverance just to get back to that place.
Yeah, I've talked to so many people about, you know, that moment when you kind of knew that you were back, and not even like back, but just like knew you could hoop again, like
Hmm.
I'm kind of in that phase right now where it's like I get to get back on the court and get shots up, and
Right.
be about basketball, and like the beauty of that when it gets taken away is such a special thing. And I'm sure you went through something very similar as well.
Hmm. No, definitely. Because it's like you're doing so much strength based stuff and you're trying to get stronger. And like, I don't mind lifting, but I'm not a bodybuilder. I'm not trying to be in here
Try
lifting
to
all the
hoop. We try
time.
to hoop,
Right.
man. We try to
So I'm
hoop.
just trying to get on the court,
Yeah.
get some shots up. Then you got to get an extra cardio and stuff on the
Hmm.
treadmill. I'm like, I'd rather just do a basketball workout rather than
Yeah.
being on this bike or being on this treadmill. So,
Yeah.
yeah, once you get back on the court, it's just the process just, I feel like goes a lot smoother just because as a hooper and playing since you're 8 years old, that's just like you're in your element, you're in your
Yeah.
space, and that's where you feel the most comfortable. So once you get back on a court and you're able to start moving again, like that's just like the best part of it all.
Yeah, and it's something that you were able to do. Obviously, you get back from that, that time, but now, you're back on the court, and things are going well. And then
Right.
unfortunately, you're playing at Minnesota. You guys are playing the Lynx in 2022. I remember seeing it. I was actually watching it, and you kind of went for a ball on the sideline, and your leg kind of looked
Hmm.
like got stuck a little bit, and you ended up doing it again, kind of, and obviously people that have seen the video, you're just screaming bloody murder. You're just clearly in pain. Like you knew something was wrong,
Yeah.
obviously, kind of just take us through that play and just like where your head went initially. Cause it's a brutal thing knowing that, like that guy's in there and that guy's torn.
Yeah. I mean, I had just got with Connecticut. I was grateful to get the opportunity to go play with them. And that was 3 games in. So I remember I just hit a three that was
Wow.
coming down. I tipped the ball and then I was like, ooh, I just wanted to steal so bad. So I was like trying to save it and trying to go get a layup. I was like, I should have just left it. But yeah, my knee just went. I actually just recently watched, I saw like the replay of it, but I never
Hmm.
watched it like live where you had the
uh,
sound.
yeah.
So I just recently, probably like a couple weeks ago, watched it with the sound, and I don't even remember I reacted like that. I was like, "Dang, that sounds awful," and
You
that
were
definitely was
screaming.
way right. That was way worse than the first one. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Because with this one, I actually did ACL and MCL, so it felt a little different.
Hmm.
I think my initial reaction though was just like, one, yeah, I definitely just tore my ACL. Two, like, and it's like I really know this time. Like I've done it
Yeah,
once. Like I
for
really
sure.
know this time. And I think for me, it was just more so like getting the opportunity to play with Connecticut was just such a great opportunity. I really wanted to make sure I was going to take advantage of that opportunity, and it just sucked for that to happen at that time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Especially coming back, basically still kind of finding my way back from the first one, finding my
Yeah.
way with a new team. So yeah, I think that one just really the timing of it kind of sucked. The other one, like the timing of it sucked because I was playing so well. At the same time, I was like, okay, like I'm under contract, like I'll come back, like I'll just work my
Yeah.
way back. I got 2 more years in this
Yeah.
contract, will be good. This one's kind of timing too. It's like, all right, I'm a free agent coming off of 2 ACLs in the last 2 years. So what does that look like? And I literally all that went through my head like right after it happened.
I
So
believe it. I believe it.
there was just a lot more factors this time around. But I mean, I'm also the type like, all right, I don't know, sometimes I'm probably in denial. So I like crutched all the way from I mean, it was not that far, but I crutched from the Target Center to back to the hotel,
Yeah.
ate dinner, went to
Yeah.
this rooftop spot with my teammates. I'm just gonna continue with everything that I was gonna do today. Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just wanted it to be as normal as it's supposed to be, even though it's not. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's such a crazy thing too, because you're in a position where it's new team, first couple of games, you obviously, and then you think about, dang, I shouldn't have made that play. Like I didn't need to make that play, type of
Right.
thing, and like all these things are like flushing through your brain. How are you
Yeah.
able to kind of compartmentalize those feelings as not only like an athlete, but more of just like I'm a human and I gotta make sure that I'm mentally okay. How are you kind of able
Hmm.
to like put those ideas aside and prioritize like my health and my mental health and my well-being?
Yeah. Well, I'll say the WNBA, they have like resources for us for like mental health. And I know Dr. Gunther that works with the league, she reached out kind of right away, especially, everyone knowing like this is also like my second ACL and not just the
Hmm.
first one. So I've had like quite a few conversations with her just about, but I feel like I kind of knew. It was just like take it day by day. Like it's like you already did this. So
Yeah. Yeah.
take it day by day. And I mean, I praise my parents for raising me the way they did, and different coaches that I had, and even Coach Auriemma. Like we thrive on mental toughness.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
at the same time, with mental health, it's like okay to have days where you're not okay. It's okay to have
Yeah,
days
for
where
sure.
you're like, yeah, nah, it's not feeling great, or
For sure.
can't do it today. Take the break. But I know like that I'm very, very, very headstrong, and I'll say like since I tore my ACL, like I went straight to training house. It was like,
Yeah.
all right, I'm in Minnesota. They're like, oh, we're gonna take you back to Connecticut to get an MRI. I was like, no, I'm just gonna reach out to my surgeon here, my PT here. I kind of already got a whole setup, and I mean, what I did it July 24th, I think,
Hmm.
and I pretty much, as far as days off, besides like, I mean, most of the time I go in 5 days a week, and true days off where I missed times during the week. I've only took 17 days off since
Wow.
July 24th. So I just make sure that I'm in there every day. I show up every day. There's days, I don't really feel like going, but
Yeah.
I still show up. There's days that are hard. There's some days where I'm like, dang, I really don't feel like doing that extra set, and I just always do it. So,
Why?
but
Why do you do it?
I mean, I know I have a goal in mind. I know there's also like there's a chip on your shoulder because now it's like, all right, she's injury prone. She's not going to come
Yeah.
back the same. And I mean, maybe I won't come back the same, but I'll still be pretty good and I'll be able
Hmm.
to make an impact on the team. And
Hmm.
I mean, it's something I've been doing for a really long time. And you just kind of want to prove that you can get back out there. I always say, too, like, I have a son, like, set an example. Life kind of
For sure.
happens. And like,
Yeah.
sometimes it's not in your control, but like, you keep pushing and you keep thriving to reach your goals.
Yeah, no, I think that's great, and obviously, I see you in there every day working, and it's exciting because it's inspiring to see you and to see other people working as hard as they do, and knowing that you're not alone in this
Right.
kind of process, and like you play this sport and like shit happens, things are gonna happen, but the way that you kind of react and bounce back is so much
Right.
more important than the injury itself. Kind of give us an update, like where you're at right now in terms of being at the training house, and like what
Mm-hmm.
you're kind of you're obviously gearing back up to play
Mm-hmm.
some more hoops, like tell us about that, and like what's your plan?
Yeah, so I've been doing really well. This leg actually been like night and day compared to the last
Wow.
leg.
Let's go.
So
Let's go.
that's a blessing. I think also like that helps with it mentally, like doing
Hmm.
it again for a second time. It helps that this one's progressing a lot a lot
Yeah,
easier than the
for
last
sure.
one. So Yeah, I mean, I started running or kind of like working into jogging about 2 months ago. I think at
Let's
three
go.
months I started doing like some stuff. And then I think this is my last week of jogging, like the jog walk portion. And then next week I should start working on sprinting. So
Let's go.
sprinting and running. So it's doing really well. I could do like one-on-one workouts. I'm coaching at Benilde a little bit. So
Yep.
sometimes I
Yep.
hop on there with some of the drills with the girls. So it's going really well. And what is it, February? It's free
Yeah.
agency right now. I don't know where I'm gonna go yet, but I'm trying to be ready for a training camp in April. April
Yeah.
30th it starts. So
That's
that's the
awesome.
plan.
That's awesome. I think it's super exciting too that you're giving back and you're working with the Benil team and just I think it's kind of a two-parter, where it's like, yeah, I get to give back, but also I get to be around basketball. And
Hmm.
selfishly as basketball players, like anytime I'm in a gym, I'm in a good mood. So,
Right.
is that kind of something that you get to feel as well when you're working with them?
No, for sure. And I mean, I have a great group of girls, like they're really talented. And at first I was like, I don't know about coaching. So I went in there kind of like, let me just try it out. And then we're like
Yeah.
playing Hopkins and I'm like all into it. Like I'm like, no. So I'm like, I actually really, really like this. So
Yeah.
it's really fun being in there with them. It's also fun just sharing my experience with them because,
Hmm.
some of them are going to D1 schools and they aspire to get to where I am. So I mean, they're a different generation. They approach things a little differently than I think I did as a kid, but at the same time, I just want to help them in any way that I can.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've always wanted to give back to my community and give back to the younger generation. So I really enjoy that.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And I think it's something cool too, where, for me personally, just like I never thought I'd have some of the experiences that I've had, just, being able to reach out to people going through injuries. And,
Hmm.
I'm working with the Brooklyn Park kids and doing some
Nice.
basketball stuff with them. And it's just like the opportunities that basketball bring you outside of basketball itself
Yep.
are, so inspiring. And it makes you kind of just like come full circle and be like, I made an impact on somebody else's life. And,
Hmm.
and, that's such a huge deal. Um, so wrapping up, we kind of have a segment at the end where we kind of just like to give you the floor and give some advice, to a 12-year-old Bria Hartley, going through adversity, going through injury. What would you say to 12-year-old you, knowing that you're going to go through something, and what kind of advice would you give?
I mean, I think I always just say kind of like take it one day at a time and always work
Hmm.
your hardest. I always feel like if you put it all out there, I always say like my clothing line is all heart.
Hmm.
Um, do everything with all your heart all the time and you won't have any regrets. I'm not
Yeah.
saying you'll always be successful. I'm not saying you won't have failures along the way, but you'll know that you did everything that you could do to make sure you were prepared and to be the best version of yourself.
Wow, I love it. I love it. And I think it's a common theme too with a lot of people when we talk about just taking things one day at a time and knowing
Mhm.
that like not every day is going to be your best day, but you got to push through those ugly dog days to make the next one your best one. So
Right.
and I think that's kind of what it's all about. And it's like every
Hmm.
day showing up and I see you in the training house and we see each other and like some days it's like good mood, like things are going good. And
Right.
sometimes like shit, and sometimes it's like shit sucks. I don't want to be here, but it's
It's
like
like I don't want to talk to you today.
yeah, you got to push through. You got to push through those days,
Right.
and I think that's what's going to be, the cool thing to look back on is to realize like
Hmm.
I got through those days, and now I'm sitting where I'm at, and I'm excited about what's the next step. So
Right.
that's all I got. That's all I got for the podcast, Bria. I appreciate you hopping on, talking with me about kind of the stuff you've been through on and off the court, and we're super excited to see you back on the court soon. I get to see you all the time at training house, so I'm
Right.
lucky enough. But everybody else gets to see you back on the court soon, and we know you're working hard to get there. So we appreciate you coming on. With that being said, this is the Double Down Podcast. I'm Parker Fox. That was Bria Hartley, and we are out. Peace.